At 9 on a Tuesday morning, the lobby of Billion Doll Tower buzzed with polished confidence. Pressed suits, clipped heels, voices that carried entitlement. In the middle of that immaculate space stood Ryan Cole, a single father in a borrowed jacket, still carrying the sting of an interview where 3 professionals had decided he wasn't their image. He kept his gaze forward, determined to leave with what little dignity the morning had spared him. Just as he reached the glass doors, a voice rose. Sharp, urgent, impossible to ignore. "Mr. Cole. Stop." Every head turned. At the top of the staircase stood Alexandra Reed, the CEO whose presence usually made board members straighten their ties. Now she was moving fast, almost running toward a man no one in that lobby had ever truly seen. Ryan didn't move. His jaw tightened as she stepped closer. "Why did you walk out like that?" she asked, breath unsteady. He answered quietly, "Because the decision was already made." But Alexandra's eyes said otherwise. Eyes that held something far heavier than disappointment. Something that hinted the interview wasn't just unfair. It was wrong. And what she was about to reveal would flip the entire building on its axis. What happens next? Subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for stories that stay with you. The moment Alexandra Reed called after him, the lobby fell into an uneasy hush. Conversations thinned into whispers, shoes slowed against the polished marble, and the security desk flickered with alert glances. Ryan Cole stood rooted in the stream of morning executives, unsure whether the sudden shift in the room was happening around him or inside him. Alexandra took a steady breath as she approached, her voice low but sharpened by purpose. "You shouldn't have been dismissed like that, Mr. Cole." Her tone carried a weight that drew every wandering stare back to them. Ryan kept his eyes on the floor. "I didn't want to make a scene," he said quietly. "Then let me be the one who does," she replied. Her words pierced the tension like a spotlight. She gestured toward a quieter corner, and although every instinct told him to leave, Ryan followed. He moved stiffly, shoulders tight, the borrowed jacket pulling at his arms as if reminding him he didn't belong in places like this. But Alexandra wasn't looking at his clothes. She looked at his face, steady, worn, resolute. "You were judged before you even sat down," she said. "I saw it." His jaw locked. "Doesn't matter. They made their decision." She held his gaze. "No. They made a mistake." Before he could reply, the elevator chimed. Marcus and the 2 interviewers stepped out, unaware that their morning was about to turn on its head. They approached with stiff backs and cautious expressions, their eyes darting between the janitor they had rejected and the CEO standing beside him. "Ma'am," Marcus began, "we heard you wanted to meet." Alexandra didn't waste a second. "Explain your decision." Marcus straightened as though preparing for a performance. "We felt he lacked the educational background to represent the company's image." Ryan felt the sting of it again, the word image, an invisible line painted between him and everything he'd worked for. Alexandra's voice sharpened. "Did you tell him that? Because what I saw was something else." The assistant swallowed hard. "We followed company standards." "Standards," Alexandra repeated. "Or assumptions." The silence snapped tight around them. Ryan stood still, torn between wanting to disappear and wanting, just once, to hear someone defend his worth. "Let me be clear," Alexandra said. "This company will not be represented by people who believe appearances determine ability." Marcus's polite mask cracked. "Ma'am, we made a reasonable judgment call." "No," she interrupted. "You made a biased one." Her words echoed off the glass walls, and several employees slowed their steps just to witness the unfolding confrontation. It wasn't every day that a CEO publicly dismantled her own hiring team. Ryan watched Marcus struggle for composure. It should have felt triumphant, but instead it felt raw, unfamiliar. He didn't want revenge. He only wanted fairness, something he hadn't tasted in years. Alexandra turned to him. "You handled yourself with more professionalism than the team interviewing you. You deserve a real chance." The assistant looked pale. The operations manager shifted uncomfortably. Marcus's mouth tightened into a thin line. Ryan spoke softly. I don't want favoritism. I only want what's fair. That is exactly what I'm offering, she said. The conversation that followed was not gentle. Alexandra questioned every step of the interview process. She pressed, challenged, dismantled their reasoning until Marcus could no longer hide behind polished corporate phrases. Finally, she delivered the verdict. You're removed from hiring authority effective immediately. We'll be reviewing all interviews conducted under your supervision. A flush crawled up Marcus's neck. Ma'am, that's accountability, she said firmly. Ryan didn't expect the wave of relief that filled his chest. He didn't expect the heaviness that lifted from his shoulders, a heaviness he'd learned to carry so long it felt like part of his posture. Then Alexandra turned back to him. You start training next week. Full pay, full support. You've earned this. For the first time since he stepped into the building that morning, Ryan allowed himself a breath that didn't hurt. Training pushed him harder than he anticipated. Claire, the instructor, didn't offer sympathy or shortcuts. She treated him the way he'd always hoped to be treated, with expectations that matched his ability, not his past. During one exercise, a mock client slammed a folder onto the desk. Your mistake cost me 30 minutes, she snapped. Ryan inhaled calmly. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Let me fix this quickly for you. Claire observed with folded arms. Good. Now handle 2 more at once. By week 3, Ryan wasn't just keeping up. He was leading. David, his assigned mentor, noticed it too. You've got instincts most people learn only after messing up a dozen times, he told Ryan one afternoon. Ryan shook his head. I've been on the other side. I know what it feels like when someone doesn't treat you as human. David's expression softened. That's exactly why you'll go far. But the journey wasn't clean or easy. One evening, while practicing after hours, doubt crept in like a shadow. He stared at the visitor management system, blinking through fatigue, thinking about Leo's medication receipts piled at home. The weight of responsibility tugged at him, telling him he didn't belong in this new world. Claire found him still working when the floor had emptied. You're not an imposter, she said. You're someone who's had to fight twice as hard to be seen once. He didn't reply, but the words anchored him. 2 months later, his first official day at the front desk arrived. The lobby glowed under morning lights, vibrant with footsteps and voices. Ryan stood behind the counter in a suit that truly fit him, not borrowed, not oversized, his. Some employees paused, surprised to see him there. Others nodded with subtle respect. A few stared, trying to reconcile the man behind the desk with the one who used to clean their offices. Ryan grounded himself with a slow breath. Good morning. How can I help you today? The day pulsed with small challenges. Misdirected clients, confused visitors, a delivery error that required quick improvisation. Each moment layered confidence onto old wounds. Then, just as the morning rush eased, Marcus strode into the lobby. His expression twisted when he spotted Ryan in the role he had once denied him. I see the CEO's charity is hard at work, he muttered. Ryan kept his tone even. It isn't charity. Marcus stepped closer. You don't belong here. Everyone knows it. Before Ryan could respond, another voice snapped through the air. That's enough. Alexandra stood behind Marcus, her expression carved from stone. I gave you a chance to correct your behavior, she said, and instead you chose to escalate it. Marcus stiffened. Ma'am, You're terminated, she said. Effective immediately. Gasps rippled across the lobby. Ryan didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply stood steady and present, as the man who once dismissed him was escorted out through the same doors Ryan had walked toward in defeat weeks earlier. But the moment wasn't about revenge. It was about balance being restored. Alexandra approached the desk. You handled that well. Ryan nodded. I just did my job. And you'll keep doing it, she said. Your contract is being extended. Full benefits for you and Leo. Emotion swelled in his chest. Not dramatic, not loud, but deep and undeniable. Thank you, he said quietly. You earned it, she replied. As the day wound down, sunlight slanted across the lobby in golden streaks. Ryan straightened the desk, preparing for the next shift. He glanced at his reflection in the glass. Still him, still grounded, but no longer invisible. And across the room, the empty space where Marcus once stood felt like proof that dignity, when defended, could reshape everything. But what came next? Ryan had no idea that another storm was already forming just beyond the door. The story wasn't finished. Not even close. When the building finally quieted that evening, Ryan lingered near the front desk, letting the day settle over him like a truth he had needed for years. For the first time, he wasn't standing on the margins. He wasn't waiting for someone to overlook him or decide he wasn't enough. He had earned his place, one step at a time without losing himself. As he packed his things, David paused beside him. You handled everything with grace today, he said. That's what people remember. Ryan nodded, realizing he believed it. Not because someone told him, but because he'd seen what courage looked like when he allowed himself to take up space. The weight he carried didn't vanish, but it felt different now. Lighter, steadier, shaped by possibility rather than fear. Outside, the city glowed beneath the early evening sky. Ryan stepped onto the sidewalk and caught his reflection in the glass door. The man looking back was no longer defined by the nights he spent unseen, but by the strength he found in choosing truth over silence. He reached for his phone to text Leo, and a quiet pride warmed his chest. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight he walked forward with a certainty he had never felt before. And somewhere behind him, the revolving doors shimmered faintly, the last reminder of a chapter he had finally closed. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales to support more meaningful journeys like this one.